Let me be direct. If you're making minimum payments on high-interest debt, you're not paying off debt. You're renting money at rates that would make a casino blush. The mathematics are brutal and unforgiving. A balance of $8,000 at 26% interest paid at the minimum will take over 13 years to eliminate and cost you nearly $30,000 in interest alone. That's not a prediction. That's a mathematical certainty. I built my career on understanding that markets aren't moved by stories or emotions. They're moved by patterns, probabilities, and cold mathematical truth. And the same principles apply to personal debt. Most people approach debt emotionally. They feel shame, so they avoid looking at the numbers. They feel hopeless, so they make minimum payments and hope things improve. They feel deserving of small luxuries, so they justify purchases they can't afford. Every single one of these emotional decisions has a precise mathematical cost, compounding daily, and that cost is almost always catastrophic. Today, I'm going to show you what I call the D-cubed rule: define, destroy, defend. It's not complicated, but it requires the same discipline I applied to quantitative trading. No emotion, no excuses, just data, strategy, and execution. This is the fastest way out of debt, and if you're doing it differently, you're doing it wrong. The first D is define. You cannot solve a problem you haven't measured. This sounds obvious, but most people in debt don't actually know how much they owe. They know some numbers. They know their credit card has a balance. They know they have a car payment, but they don't know the totals, the interest rates, the true cost of their minimum payment strategy. This ignorance isn't accidental. It's psychological protection. The numbers are frightening, so the brain avoids them. I learned early in my career that uncomfortable data is usually the most valuable data. When Renaissance Technologies was developing new trading models, we didn't ignore the scenarios that made us uncomfortable. We studied them with greater intensity because they revealed where our assumptions were wrong. The same applies to debt. You need complete transparency. Take out a piece of paper or open a spreadsheet and list every single debt you have. Not rounded numbers, exact numbers. The balance to the penny, the interest rate to the decimal, the minimum payment, and then calculate the monthly interest charge. This is the number that reveals how much of your payment is actually reducing your debt versus feeding the lender. Let me give you a concrete example. Suppose you have a credit card with a balance of $7,890 at an interest rate of 26.99%. Your minimum payment is $235 per month. Sounds manageable, right? Now calculate the monthly interest. $7,890 times 0.2699 divided by 12. That's $177. Out of your $235 payment, $177 is pure interest. You're only reducing your principal by $58. At this rate, paying off that one card will take 13.2 years and cost you $37,128 total. You'll pay $29,238 in interest on a $7,890 balance. That's nearly 4 times the original amount. And that's assuming you never add another charge, never miss a payment, and the interest rate never increases. This is the mathematical reality that most people never calculate. They see the minimum payment and think they're making progress. They're not. They're trapped in a system engineered to extract maximum profit through compound interest. Now extend this across all your debts. Credit cards, car loans, student loans, personal loans. Add up the balances. Add up the minimum payments. Calculate the total interest you'll pay if you continue on the current path. For most people, this number is absolutely staggering. It's not uncommon to find that someone earning $50,000 per year is carrying $70,000 in debt and will pay $140,000 over the next decade if they don't change their strategy. This is the definition phase. No emotion, just numbers. You need to see the battlefield clearly before you can plan your strategy. Write down every debt, calculate the true cost, face the data directly. The second D is destroy. Once you've defined your debt with precision, you need a systematic method to eliminate it. Not slowly, not emotionally. Systematically, using one of two proven mathematical strategies, the Avalanche method or the Snowball method. The Avalanche method is mathematically optimal. You rank your debts from highest interest rate to lowest. You pay the minimum on everything except the highest interest debt, and you throw every extra dollar at that one until it's gone. Then you move to the next highest rate, and so on. This method saves the most money because you're eliminating the most expensive debt first. Interest compounds, and high interest debt compounds fastest. Every dollar you pay toward a 27% interest rate, that saves you 27 cents per year. Every dollar toward a 6% debt saves you 6 cents. The mathematics are clear. Attack the highest rates first. Let's return to our example. You have that $7,890 credit card at 27%. If you can find an extra $300 per month, and we'll discuss exactly how to find it, you now pay $535 monthly instead of $235. With $300 extra per month, that card is paid off in 18 months instead of 13 years. The total interest paid drops from $29,000 to $5,000. You just saved $24,000 by accelerating your payments and targeting the highest rate. Across all debts, using the Avalanche method with that extra $300 per month, total payoff time drops from 13 years to under 5 years. Total interest paid drops from nearly $80,000 to under $20,000. You save approximately $60,000 and regain 8 years of your life. The mathematics are irrefutable. This is the fastest, cheapest path out of debt. But here's the problem. Humans aren't purely rational. We're psychological creatures, and sometimes mathematical optimality conflicts with psychological sustainability. The Avalanche method can feel slow at first because you're chipping away at a large balance. You don't get the satisfaction of eliminating a debt quickly. For some people, this lack of early wins leads to discouragement and abandonment of the plan. This is where the Snowball method comes in. Instead of ranking by interest rate, you rank by balance, size, smallest to largest. You pay minimums on everything except the smallest debt, and you attack that one with everything you have. When it's gone, you roll that payment into the next smallest debt, creating a snowball effect. The Snowball method is psychologically powerful. You get quick wins. You see debts disappearing. Each eliminated debt gives you momentum and motivation to continue. Research from Harvard Business School found that people using the Snowball method are 34% more likely to stick with their debt payoff plan than those using other methods. Why? Because humans are motivated by visible progress. Using the Snowball method with our example, if your smallest debt is $4,320, you eliminate it in about 12 months with that extra $300 per month. One debt gone. Then you take that entire payment and roll it into the next debt. The payment grows like a snowball rolling downhill. Total payoff time is about 5.2 years instead of 4.8 with Avalanche. Total interest is about $23,000 instead of $19,000. You pay $4,000 more in interest, but you gain psychological momentum that makes you 34% more likely to actually complete the plan. Which method should you choose? It depends on your psychology. If you're highly disciplined and motivated purely by numbers, use Avalanche. If you need visible wins to stay motivated, use Snowball. The critical insight is this. The best method is the one you'll actually execute for years. A mathematically optimal plan you abandon is worth nothing. A slightly less optimal plan you complete is worth everything. I've always believed that the best model isn't the one with the highest theoretical return. It's the one that works consistently in real market conditions. The same applies here. Choose the method that fits your psychology, commit to it completely, and execute without deviation. Now, while you're destroying existing debt, you must simultaneously implement the third D, defend. You must defend against new debt. This is where most people fail. They start paying down debt, then they finance a new car, or they put a vacation on a credit card, or they take out a personal loan for furniture. They're trying to fill a bathtub while the drain is open. To defend effectively, You need to understand the difference between good debt and bad debt. This distinction is mathematically and philosophically clear. Good debt increases your net worth or income potential. It has interest rates typically under 8%. It's used for assets that appreciate or for investments in yourself that increase earning capacity. Examples: a mortgage on a property in a stable market that you can afford. Federal student loans for an in-demand degree with strong earning potential. A small business loan with a clear path to profitability. Bad debt does not increase net worth. It typically has interest rates over 10%, often over 20%. It's used for consumption, for things that lose value immediately or provide no lasting benefit. Examples: credit card debt for dining, vacations, clothes, electronics, auto loans for cars beyond your means, personal loans for lifestyle expenses. The rule is simple: no new bad debt. Period. If you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. No credit card purchases unless you pay the full balance every month. No financing furniture or electronics. No personal loans for discretionary spending. This requires a fundamental shift in thinking. Most people use debt to maintain a lifestyle they can't afford. They see a purchase they want, they justify it emotionally, and they finance it because the monthly payment seems small. They don't calculate the total cost with interest. They don't recognize that every finance purchase extends their debt timeline by months or years. I'll tell you a story from my early days. When I was starting out as a mathematician, I had very little money. I wanted things I couldn't afford. But I understood compound interest worked both ways: against you in debt, for you in investment. Every dollar I spent on interest was a dollar that couldn't compound in my favor. So I lived below my means. I delayed gratification. I made decisions based on mathematics, not emotion. Years later, when Renaissance was generating extraordinary returns, people would ask me how we did it. The answer was always the same: we removed emotion from the process. We trusted the models. We executed the strategy regardless of how it felt in the moment. The same discipline applies to defending against new debt. It will feel restrictive. You'll see friends taking vacations you can't afford. You want a new car. You want to eat out. But every one of those emotional wants has a precise mathematical cost. A $3,000 vacation financed at 22% interest, paid at minimum payments, costs over $6,000 and takes 5 years to pay off. Is 12 months of vacation memories worth 60 months of payments and $3,000 in interest? The mathematics say no. Your emotions say yes. You must choose which voice to follow. Now let me address two strategic tools that can accelerate your progress: consolidation and refinancing. These are not magic solutions, but used correctly, they're powerful. Balance transfer credit cards offer 0% interest for an introductory period, usually 12 to 21 months. If your credit score is above 680, you can transfer high-interest credit card balances to these cards and pay them off interest-free during the intro period. The catch: there's usually a 3 to 5% transfer fee up front. And if you don't pay off the balance before the intro period ends, the remaining balance gets hit with high interest, often 18 to 25%. The mathematics: if you have $4,320 at 22% interest, you're paying about $81 per month in interest alone. Transfer it to a 0% card for 18 months with a 3% fee. You pay $130 up front, then pay $240 per month for 18 months to eliminate it completely. Total cost, $4,450. Compared to keeping it on the original card, where you'd pay thousands in interest over years, you save massively. The risk: you must pay it off during the intro period, and you must not run up the original card again. If you transfer the balance but then charge the original card back up, you've doubled your debt, not solved it. Personal loan consolidation works similarly. If you have multiple high-interest debts, you can take out a single personal loan at a lower rate to pay them all off. For example, if you have $12,000 across 2 credit cards averaging 25% interest, and you can get a personal loan at 11% for 36 months, your monthly payment might be $400. You'll pay about $2,200 in interest over 3 years. Compare that to keeping the cards at minimum payments where you pay over $18,000 in interest over 10 plus years. You save $16,000 and cut your payoff time by more than half. Again, the risk, if you consolidate, but then run the credit cards back up, you now have the personal loan plus new credit card debt. You've made the problem worse. Auto loan refinancing can save money if interest rates have dropped or your credit has improved. If you have a car loan at 8% and you can refinance to 5%, the savings might be modest, perhaps a couple thousand over the life of the loan, but it's essentially free money. Student loan refinancing is more complex. Federal student loans come with protections, income-driven repayment plans, potential forgiveness programs, deferment options, discharge in case of disability or death. Private refinancing might offer a lower rate, but you lose all those protections permanently. Given economic uncertainty, I generally advise keeping federal loans federal unless you're absolutely certain you won't need those protections. The principle behind all these tools is the same: reduce the interest rate, which reduces the total cost, which accelerates payoff. But they only work if you simultaneously defend against new debt. Otherwise, you're rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship. Let me now address the most critical component of the entire system, your budget. You cannot pay off debt faster without freeing up money. And you cannot free up money without knowing exactly where it's going. Most people have a vague sense of their spending. They know their rent. They know their car payment. Beyond that, it's a blur. Coffee here, dinner there, Amazon purchases, subscriptions they forgot about. It adds up to thousands of dollars per year that evaporate without conscious decision. I want you to track every dollar for 1 month, every single purchase. Coffee, gas, groceries, subscriptions, everything. Use an app, use a spreadsheet, use a notebook. The method doesn't matter. The precision does. At the end of the month, categorize everything: rent, utilities, insurance, groceries, restaurants, entertainment, shopping, everything. Add it up. Compare it to your income. For most people, this exercise is shocking. They discover they're spending hundreds of dollars per month on things they barely remember. They're spending more than they earn, making up the difference with credit cards, which creates a vicious cycle. Let me give you a concrete example. Suppose your after-tax monthly income is $4,200. You track your spending and find rent, $1,450, $185, phone, $85, car insurance, $156, $180, groceries, $420, restaurants and takeout, $380, coffee shops, $95, streaming services, $67, $45, bars and alcohol, $240, shopping, $315, miscellaneous, $180, total $3,798 in expenses plus $1,265 in debt payments equals $5,063 going out every month. You're earning $4,200 and spending $5,063. You're going $863 deeper into debt every single month despite making debt payments. This is the reality for millions of people. They're making payments, but they're simultaneously adding new debt faster than they're paying off old debt. The hole gets deeper every month. Now look at the discretionary spending. Restaurants, $380. Coffee, $95. Bars, $240. 315. Streaming services, $67. Miscellaneous, $180. That's $1,277 per month on wants, not needs. I'm not saying you should eliminate all enjoyment from life. I'm saying you need to make conscious trade-offs. Every dollar spent on discretionary items is a dollar that can't pay down debt. And every dollar of debt you don't pay down costs you interest. At 25% interest, every $100 you leave on a credit card costs you $25 per year. It compounds. Over 5 years, that $100 costs you over $130 in total interest. If you're only paying minimums, So when you're deciding whether to spend $15 on takeout, you're not just spending $15. You're spending $15 plus interest, compounded over however long that debt remains. The true cost might be $20 or $25. Now, create a lean budget. Not starvation, not misery, but lean. Restaurants cut from 380 to 150, cook at home more, meal prep on Sundays, save $230. Coffee cut from 95 to 30. Make coffee at home, maybe treat yourself once a week, save $65. Bars and alcohol cut from 240 to 80. Socialize at home, have friends over instead of going out. Save $160. Cut from 315 to 100. Buy only necessities. Save $215. Streaming, cut from 67 to 16. Keep one or two services, rotate them, save $51. Miscellaneous, cut from 180 to 80. Be more intentional, save $100. Total savings, $721 per month. Add that to the $863 you were overspending, and you now have $1,584 of breathing room. Allocate $300 to extra debt payments using your chosen method. Allocate $300 to an emergency fund so unexpected expenses don't force you back into debt. Keep the rest as buffer. Is this comfortable? No. Will you sacrifice some short-term pleasure? Absolutely. But here's the trade-off. You're choosing between 5 years of discipline and freedom or 15 years of minimum payments and stress. You're choosing between paying $20,000 in interest or $80,000. You're choosing between being debt-free at 35 or 50. The mathematics don't care about your feelings. They only care about your choices. I spent my career building models that removed human emotion from investment decisions. The models worked because they were based on probability and pattern recognition, not hope or fear. Your debt payoff plan needs the same foundation. You need a system, you need data, you need discipline, you need to execute the plan regardless of how you feel on any given day. Let me be absolutely clear about something. The credit card industry, the auto loan industry, the personal loan industry, they're not evil. They're rational. They're operating on mathematical models designed to maximize profit. They've calculated that most people will pay minimum payments for years. They've calculated that most people will continue using their cards even while trying to pay them off. They've calculated the default rates, the payment patterns, the psychological triggers. Their entire business model is built on human behavior patterns that they've studied extensively. You're competing against those models, and the only way to win is to behave differently than the model predicts. The model predicts you'll make minimum payments. You need to pay double or triple. The model predicts you'll continue spending. You need to stop completely. The model predicts you'll give up after a few months. You need to persist for years. This is a war of attrition, and attrition is won through systems, not motivation. Motivation fades. Systems persist. Create automatic payments that pull the money before you can spend it. Create barriers between you and spending. Delete shopping apps. Unsubscribe from promotional emails. Remove saved payment information from websites. Make spending require effort. At the same time, create visible progress markers. Track your debt balances monthly. Celebrate each debt you eliminate. Watch the total number decrease. This provides the psychological fuel to continue. I want you to do something right now. Before you finish this video, calculate 3 numbers. First, how much total debt do you have? Add up every balance. Second, how much will you pay in total interest if you continue making minimum payments? Use an online calculator or spreadsheet. This number will shock you. Third, how much extra can you realistically pay per month if you cut discretionary spending? Even $50 makes a difference. Now, use a debt payoff calculator with your chosen method, Avalanche or Snowball, and see your new payoff date and total interest with that extra payment. The difference between those two scenarios is the cost of your current behavior. That's not a judgment, it's mathematics. I've spent decades studying patterns in markets, in data, in human behavior, and I can tell you with certainty the pattern of minimum payments leads to long-term debt and enormous interest costs. The pattern breaks only when behavior changes. Not intentions, not wishes, behavior. Define your debt precisely. Destroy it systematically using Avalanche or Snowball. Defend against new bad debt absolutely. This is the D-cubed rule. It's not revolutionary. It's not complicated. But it works because it's based on mathematics, not emotion. The hardest part isn't understanding the system. It's executing it consistently when your brain is screaming at you to buy something you want. It's saying no to dinners and trips and purchases while your friends are saying yes. It's living below your means when society tells you to keep up appearances. But here's what I learned building Renaissance. Short-term comfort is expensive. Short-term discipline is cheap. Compound interest works both ways. Let it work against you, and you'll spend decades in debt. Make it work for you, and you'll build wealth. Every month you delay starting this system costs you hundreds of thousands in interest. Every month you execute it buys you closer to freedom. So I'm asking you now, commit to a specific debt-free date. Not someday, a specific month and year. Write it down, put it somewhere visible, tell someone who will hold you accountable. Then execute the system. No excuses, no exceptions. Track your numbers monthly. Adjust your budget as needed. Stay on the path. If you found value in this breakdown, leave a comment telling me your debt-free target date and which method you're using, Avalanche or Snowball. The act of public commitment increases follow-through dramatically. The D-cube rule works. Define every debt with precision. Destroy it systematically with extra payments, targeted strategically. Defend absolutely against new bad debt. Combine this with a lean budget and consistency over years, and you will be debt-free. The mathematics guarantee it. The only variable is your behavior. I built a career on trusting models over emotions. This is the model for debt freedom. Trust it, execute it, and you'll look back years from now grateful you made the choice when it was uncomfortable, because that's when it mattered most.